Hello. So, let's talk about Node and let's talk about Elixir. Now, this is a bit difficult for me. It's very difficult, in fact. This is like, I don't know, this is like asking a parent, which of your two kids do you love the most? That's how I feel about it. Yes, I know it sounds dramatic, but it is so dramatic for me because I really love Node. It is my absolute favorite go-to for almost anything that I'm building these days, be it a prototype or a startup company or anything. It's like my bread and butter. It's what PHP used to be, but today. And then I have Elixir, who is this. It's almost like a mistress. It's like this amazing seductive language that I just want to work with as much as humanly possible, but at the same time it's a little bit forbidden. Like I can't really find any like companies. There's like one company here in Gothenburg who uses it for most of their tech stack, and I don't know, guys. I don't know. This is a tough one. But let's start by the pros. And if there are cons, I'll try to figure them out. First and foremost, when it comes to working in Node, one of the main benefits is, of course, that it's all JavaScript, which means that any web interfaces, anything like that, there's a lot of commonality between the two. Like you can basically, you're writing your whole tech stack in JavaScript, which is great. It's horrible at the same time depending on who you're asking, but it will allow you to work very quickly. There are massive benefits to having everything in JavaScript if you can get away with it. There are also consequences, you don't have typing and all that stuff, but for all intents and purposes, Node will give you a really great start for almost any project. That's why I still work almost exclusively in Node when it comes to my own projects and so forth. On the downside when it comes to Node and JavaScript so forth is that it's not a big downside, but there are absolutely projects that should not be made in JavaScript. And if we look at Elixir is designed by the best community in the world, the Ruby community, Jose Valim, if you don't know anything about Elixir, please check it out. It is the big, I still say that I truly wish it became the de facto standard for all server-side, every server-side, basically every server-side application there is. It's such an amazing language. And the best part about it is that most of the stuff that is so hyped today, like you've heard it, most people have heard it at least, microservices, high availability, functional programming, all that stuff, it's all there. All of it. It's all there. Every single piece of it is in Elixir, and it's battle proven beyond anything Node could ever hope to achieve. This is the language that is built on top of Erlang, which has been around for 30 plus years. It's used by the most it's not the most, but one of the most stable business industries in the world. The telecommunications systems are like a lot of them are using it. Ericsson was the original creator, or rather the original owner of this language, and they used it for their telecommunication systems. And as you can imagine, how often is it that you get you're talking to your friends on the phone, and all of a sudden there's a tone saying, "Hey, we're going to update your system. We're going to have a downtime of 20 minutes or something like that." Like that never ever happens. So when it comes to high availability, this is proven technology, and high availability is what everybody's talking about today. Well, and performance, of course. And in terms of performance, Elixir has you covered there as well. Now, to compare these two, it's a little bit tricky, I'm going to be honest, because the benefits that you have are like, it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges in a sense, because although you can absolutely leverage, like for example, microservices. Now microservices it started like the trend that Docker basically, well, it didn't start it, but it popularized it, was kind of hand in hand with Node. So Node and Docker, that's the way you did microservice just a few years ago. Now people are talking about other types of microservices, and Go is getting kind of a little bit more intimate with the term microservices, but it's still there. And then you have Elixir, who basically doesn't even need microservices, because it has processes, which is the exact, well, it's not the exact same thing, but it's the closest thing you're gonna get to having microservices. And that's one of the most, like, one of my absolute favorite features of the language. The benefits of having a monolithic application, but you're getting microservices for it. So your code base can still be written as a single monolith, but at runtime and the way that the system behaves, it can still act as a microservices architecture. So the separation of concerns and like the loose coupling, all of that stuff is built into Elixir. It's there from the get-go. And that is extremely powerful. It reduces a lot of overhead, and it reduces the maintenance requirements for like distributed systems. So when it comes to comparing these two, like although you can do microservices and so forth in Node, it's easier to get something like that running with Elixir. And although I'm gonna be honest, I've never actually run a large-scale system in Elixir, I don't know how easy it is to debug and maintain over time. I imagine it's pretty good at that as well. So to make something useful out of my little talk rant here, so to leave you with something that can be of use, I would say that if you are doing something in terms of something that requires high availability to the absolute extent, like to the maximum extent, like the companies I've talked to who are using Elixir is Bet365, for example, in the UK, and then we have Speed Ledger, Football Addicts, I'm pretty sure, are using it here in Gothenburg. Don't quote me on that though. And a few others that I've talked to. But if you are making something such as let's say a communication system, if you are making something like a transaction, bank transactions, if you are building something that can at no point ever go down, it has to always stay up, it has to be an uptime of close to 100%, then Elixir is your friend. That's what you want. Anything that has to do with, let's say, real-time analytics, real-time, anything like that, Elixir is your go-to, should be the default. And if you're going for speed and like basically anything else, all of that other stuff, then Node is probably your best bet. So that kind of leaves you, and that's actually the reason why I usually still stick with Node for the most part. It is because the use case for Elixir is so strong for the stuff that it's really good at doing. But when it comes to development speed, like although you can absolutely get comfortable in Elixir very quickly, it's still not at it doesn't have the same trend and like the popularity of Node, and that kind of makes it a little bit more risky to use, if you will. It's a very weak argument, I know it is. It's kind of the same situation that Ruby found itself in, that the genius of Ruby and all the amazing stuff that it brought to the table was outmaneuvered, if you will, by the lack of adoption of the increasing popularity of JavaScript and other solutions, basically. So it's whenever you see me making a video between Node versus something else, Node is probably gonna win it. That's a spoiler. It's probably gonna win it for almost everything, but I want to make sure that I leave you every single time with at least my perception, at least what I think is a good, strong use case for the other language. And if you're ever, as I said, if you're ever in a situation where you use a lot of WebSockets or anything like that, check out Elixir, because it is an amazing piece of technology.